wants to see Khan's digital world? Did I hear you say I do? I do. Well, I certainly do. I like when Dr. Khan comes to the studios to record his segments. He does distribute a wealth of valuable information relevant to this advanced digital world. On this Good Saturday morning, Dr. Khan, along with his co-hostess, Nicolette Hurd, will divulge on driverless cars, boom and bust. This is a very unique and an interesting episode. Let's take a close look.
Hello, welcome to Khan's Digital World. With me is Nicolette Hurd. And as you're embarking into new era, welcome Nicolette. How are you?
I'm fine, I'm good. Thank you, Spadrul, for introducing me. How are you? How was your trip to Asia?
Well, it was exciting. I had a speaking engagement on e-learning topics in several countries, Malaysia, Singapore, India, and Thailand. Most exciting thing that I like to share that, as you know, my book has been translated in so many languages, and this time is in Thai language. And it was translated by 3 professors from Prince of Songkla University in Hat Yai, Thailand. It was a wonderful trip. Now, so what are we talking about today?
About a topic that keeps occupying the news, the experts, and everyone alike. And no one really knows if it will lead to a boom or rather a bust: driverless cars. As you know, there is a lot of hype about this, and as with so many things in tech, we're very often sold on the hype. The delivery, though, is something quite different. So with car companies scheduled to roll out the first generation cars in 2019 and 2020, and automakers and high-tech companies spending billions of dollars on developing these self-driving vehicles, touting the idea that those vehicles will help create a safer, a cleaner, and a more mobile society, let's look a little bit at what's there and what isn't. How useful are they, and what can they really not do?
Well, yes, politicians are not far behind in their enthusiasm for the new technology either. Big statements such as it will not only completely revolutionize the way we get around, but also have the potential to save hundreds of thousands of lives each year are read everywhere. But it turns out that such predictions are based on surprisingly little research. What's there?
That's a good question. Developers amass data on the sensors and algorithms that allow cars to drive themselves, but research on the social, on the economic, and on environmental impact is really sparse. Most experts actually conclude that true self-driving cars are still decades away. Some even mention as much as 50 years out. Also, the environmental impact is really not clear. Recent studies by researchers at 2 of the Department of Energy labs nationwide have calculated that the total energy consumption for transportation could either drop as much as 91% or, conversely, increase as much as 200%. So in other words, everyone is really still quite in the dark.
Well, yes. And it's one thing to drive around on a sunny new road with no traffic, and another to survive in these Manhattan or bad weather conditions.
I agree. The first company that really rolls out a self-driving car, they must be really risk takers.
How's that? Because
potholes, undisciplined drivers, left lane sitters, people from different cultural backgrounds, that all requires a human to be fully present in traffic. Fast, flexible, reactive, those are really the words that we need to have. Adaptive to constant new situations. A computer doesn't work that way. It needs data. It cannot self-adapt to the changes in the environment. It is not the miles that count, but really much more how those miles were accumulated. So far, the only tangible measurement in terms of how they work is how many miles a self-driving car has actually driven. So I give you some examples. Ford, for example, tests in Ann Arbor, in Pittsburgh, in Dearborn with varying degrees of bicyclists and pedestrians. So that's what they're testing. General Motors tests in San Francisco, in Phoenix and Warren with a range of different street conditions. But the two really are not comparable and not compatible. So they do not make a usable data set that someone can actually work with. And then progress is from computerized test simulations, which means that the vehicle, the software that it's meant to control, is actually not even moving.
So companies are focusing on situations that the cars have solved on the road, such as turns, lane changing, passing, construction zones, emergency vehicles.
Yes, and you know what this reminds me of? Very much of when you learn to drive. You think when you have your driver's license, you are actually ready to engage in traffic, and you think you know how to drive, but the actual learning occurs only after that. And for that, you really need to be fully present.
Human factor, not all automated. Input taken by cameras, output made by artificial intelligence. So whatever camera takes in, it's like garbage in, and if you make decision using AI, the output will be garbage out.
Very much so. That makes very sense, yes. We live in times of self-thinking, so the question is, what are your thoughts at home? Are driverless cars a boom or rather a bust?
Well, folks, let us hear from you on the Facebook. We wanted to hear from you. Is really a bust or boom? Because you know, what we have with the driverless car is a new thing for us. We have to get used to how this automated driverless car can be incompatible with our surroundings, our infrastructure, our mindset. So it's easy to say that we have an automated car, we can go as far as many places we want, but you know, we are human. We have to make sure whatever the cameras taking the input as the data, it will make a decision based on that. So we need to make sure that we understand the cultural change for people, mechanical change for the environment, and also infrastructure change for all the different countries with their highways. You see, you may have a fastest car in the world. If there were a lot of potholes, it's not going to run. So having said that, we are so happy to have you all watching us today with another episode of KDW. We'll see you next time. We'd like to hear from you on our Facebook. Thank you very much.